Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be 4 things that I wish I could tell myself when I first started. So if you just got into bass fishing, make sure to check this video out. Number 1 is to stop using braid for every single thing. Braid is not meant to use all the time. It's not near as versatile as fluorocarbon and mono are. Braid is it's a very niche thing. It has its things that it's good for, and it has its things that it's a must-have. But other than that, that's about it. Flipping is one of those that got a hold of me really bad. I always flipped with straight braid all the time, no matter what. And you run into problems with fish seeing the line, and you can say, well, I can still catch fish. Well, imagine how many more fish you would have caught if you were flipping on fluorocarbon or with fluorocarbon. Just because you're catching fish doesn't mean that you're not having a problem with fish seeing your line. What you're experiencing is you're catching those few fish that are either hitting it so aggressively they don't see it, or you're now in an area where maybe the water got muddier, or you're in grass and you don't even know it, and that line doesn't play as big a role because they can't see it so well. So that's what you're experiencing there. Using braid all the time is not a good thing. You're gonna catch a lot more fish with fluorocarbon when flipping. That's just part of it. You don't run into fish seeing the line hardly ever. It's very seldom. You get shock absorption, which is huge. That's a huge thing. You will also get a lot more fish to the boat having some kind of shock absorption in your line, which braid has none. And you say, well, I need the sensitivity. Fluorocarbon is still super sensitive. And really, I'm a firm believer that sensitivity is probably, I think sensitivity is more of experience. I think the more time you have spent doing it, the better you're gonna feel things. I don't think you can just hand a $700 combo and braid and just the most sensitive, heavyweight and thing. It's just, you hand that to someone who's never done it, they can't tell you what they're feeling exactly. But if you were to put, a $20 rod in Kevin Van Dam's hands, he's gonna know exactly when a fish hits it. He's gonna know what he's going over. I think sensitivity is more of a feel thing. I think it's something that's developed more than anything. Does gear help? Of course it does. Gear helps completely, but I don't think it's solely dependent on gear. That's another thing that you kind of got a bonus, but try flipping on fluorocarbon. You're also going to catch more fish because of the way the bait falls on fluorocarbon. Now, one argument I see for flipping with braid and using it in other situations is cost, and that's 100%. The cost is what kept me using braid all the time. And then, it was the main reason. And then I understood that, these other types of lines are still very important to use, and I was running into the problems. I seen them once I was exposed to them. So then I was like, okay, well, I have to do something. So I just went braid to leader. And it was mainly a cost thing. I didn't want to be buying, a $30 spool of fluorocarbon to put on my flipping reel that would hold the whole spool, but I was only using a little bit of it, and it just didn't make sense. Going braid to leader made so much more sense cost wise. But here's the thing, and this is something that a lot of people don't even know about yet, but there's such thing as a flipping reel. I'll put a picture up here of the one from Ardent, my favorite one. It's a narrow spool that's designed for flipping. It's specifically made for flipping and pitching. It's, if you flip enough, and which I'm sure most people do, where you could use a dedicated one, pick this reel up. They have 2 of them, and I'll put a link in the description to them both, and I'll put up a picture of just the one, that way, because they're similar in design, and pretty much most flipping reels are, but the ones from Ardent are great. There is one that's a little bit more budget friendly. I don't know the price offhand, but I'll put it in the description, a link to it, and you can go check it out. But seriously, If cost is what's holding you back, and I know that sounds weird, go buy a reel, that way you can save money. Well, you're already spending money on a reel, but it's an investment. It is 100% worth it. I recommend trying it out, seriously, because what you may have to spend to get the reel, which really isn't too much, really, either one you go with, you know, the benefits that you're going to get, the amount of fish that you're going to first catch or get to bite, and the amount of fish you're going to get to the boat because you're using fluorocarbon, it's totally worth it. And braid is awful for crankbaits. The only exception to that would be David Fritz, who is, if you don't know who he is pretty much the father of cranking. He really is. He's one of the best at it. But the only time he seems to use braid is whenever he's with his long or his deep diving crankbaits, because he's making super long casts and they're already, you know, they're 60, 70 feet, and then they're also 20 foot deep or 30 foot deep, and he likes to have the braid for better hook penetration and better hook sets. So that's an example of braid isn't good for the technique except for this instance. And that's how it is for all techniques. You know, there are instances where mono may be better, fluoro may be better, or braid may be better. That's up to you. That comes with experience. Don't just let someone who says, I use braid for everything and never have a problem. They're having problems, they just don't understand. They don't know. They're not aware of those problems yet. But as soon as they start using other things, if they did switch to mono or fluoro, then they'll realize. So trust me, you will do much better with other types of line. So don't get stuck on only braid. The second is color. Now, I didn't really have this problem, but it's something I see a ton nowadays. Don't get stuck with only black and blue and green pumpkin. Now, I mainly see it in black and blue, and I'm not sure the exact source of this is, but it seems like I've had more people in my boat who say, I don't need any other colors than black and blue. That's all I buy is black and blue. And if they really like that bait, they might then they might buy in green pumpkin. Now, if you're trying out a bait, I think, you know, going black and blue and green pumpkin's a good way to go, because you're not sure if you like it yet or not. But, you know, whenever you've established what you like using and all that kind of stuff, don't only use black and blue and green pumpkin. There's so many other colors. And if you're a beginning angler and you are into this, you know, do you have anything with red, green pumpkin red? You know, this is the June bug and green pumpkin blue. This is one of the best colors out there. Your green pumpkin blue and your June bug green pumpkin red is great. Do you have anything with orange or brown? Anything with some chartreuse, or like a morning dawn or a bubblegum color? You know, those are the things you've got to remember. There's other colors out there, and black and blue and green pumpkin, yes, they may be the two best colors that work, that seem like they can work all the time. They are. I'm not going to deny that. You know, and these are just bases. These are based on these colors. Like, you know, I understand that. But the thing is, if you were in an instance where, say if you were in some stained water, but its clarity is still too good for black and blue, then you just go straight to green pumpkin, but it's still somewhat stained. Well, pick up this one, the Slayer color from Riot, or this one here. Or if it's just lightly stained, or lightly too stained for just green pumpkin, throw in some red. Springtime, try and throw in a little bit of red with your bait. If they're mainly feeding on bluegill, or you notice that the crawfish down there have got blue on them, this is the best when it comes to that time. You know, you have to use the water clarity to determine color. And yes, these will work all the time, it seems like. You can get more bites And there are instances where they may only want this and they don't want this at all, even though they're both green pumpkin, but they just want that little bit of red. That's what gets them to bite. So don't get stuck only buying green pumpkin, and especially black and blue. Black and blue is a great color. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying that green pumpkin's not. I'm just saying that there are tons of times where switching up colors really made a difference. And here's the other part to it. If you're throwing black and blue and not getting any bites, and so you switch to green pumpkin thinking it's a water clarity issue, and you switch to this and you're still not getting any bites, you're out of luck. You know, you don't have any other colors to go to. Whenever this is a great in between. And then I start catching fish because I switched to something that matches the water clarity that I can't do with these two only colors. So it's more of a limiting yourself problem than anything. So please, you know, if it's a bait that you already have established some confidence in that you like, please invest in other colors. It's super important. So guys, if you like any of the baits that you see in this video, I highly recommend going and checking them out at riotbaits.com. I'll leave a link down in the description along with my discount code for 15% off your order, and I'll go ahead and throw it up here, but it is kind of long, so you know, check out the description below for that. Now the biggest problem I see, and I cannot stress this enough, you know the Luz Mock Crush combos and the Abu Garcia Black Max combos that you can buy. Now there's nothing wrong with them, but whenever you're buying 5 of them and you're not accomplishing anything, and you're just because you have 5 of this exact same rod and combos and you're throwing on different line and you're tying on different baits does not make them technique specific, if that's what you're thinking. And if you're not thinking that and you're just buying the same rods, it's not a good thing. You need to avoid that. All you're doing is wasting money, because having 5 of the exact same rod and reels, it's not even that it's the same rod and reel, it's the fact that it's the same power and action, or in the same gear ratio. There's no versatility there. Now, a 7-foot medium heavy, which is what most of these come in, is the most versatile rod, and a 7-to-1 gear ratio, one can argue is the most versatile real gear ratio. But the problem is, yeah, the rod may be versatile, but there's still limitations, and there's some techniques that it just straight cannot do. And one of those is crankbaits. You know, crankbaiting is one thing that you want a actual cranking rod for. If there was one technique, it would probably be cranking. That I would, if I could pick one technique that is the most important to have the right rod for, it would have to be cranking. Because if that rod is too stiff, if it's a fast, doesn't matter what power. If it's fast, you're gonna lose a lot of fish. If it's a medium fast, you will lose fish. I have a medium fast that I thought had enough tip until I really started cranking with it, and I was losing fish left and right, and I just told myself, I said, this is not the right rod. I know exactly what it was. I just was losing fish because it didn't have the give. It didn't keep them pinned. I switched to I got a medium moderate fast cranking rod, and it's specifically cranking, and I have no problems now. I mean, and you are limiting yourself on power and action, and also length. You know, each technique does not take the same rod, you know, and even if it's cranking, okay, when I throw a deep diving crankbait and versus a square bill, it varies completely. You know, a square bill I'm throwing on a medium moderate or a moderate fast usually. That's either 6'10" to 7 foot. But on a deep diving crankbait, if I can choose, I'm throwing it on a 7-11 medium heavy moderate, and that's just what I'm using. I can cast it a lot farther, which is, you know, pretty important for a deep diving crankbait. A moderate action, it's very important for keeping those fish pinned on long fights. You know, that's just the part of it. Oh, a medium heavy. You want a medium heavy because usually deep diving crankbaits are a whole lot heavier than a square bill. You know, most square bills are like half to three, not even 3/4, usually like 3/8 to half ounce. And a lot of your there's I have deep diving crankbaits with weights in the bill. I mean, usually they're like an ounce and a quarter. You know, they even heavier maybe. You know, you gotta have the backbone, or else you're not gonna get very good casting distance because it's overloading the rod, or you'll just break the rod, and that can happen too. And then when it comes to flipping, I don't want to flip with a crankbait rod, and I don't want to flip with a 7-foot medium heavy fast. It's not that effective at it. Can you do some light flipping and pitching? Yeah, of course you can. You know, it works for that. But if I'm in some brush piles or in some, you know, not even heavy, just, you know, medium grass. If it's not sparse grass, I want a heavy fast. Or I don't really like an extra fast, but I'm fine with an extra heavy. Reason I like an extra fast is I feel like it has no give, or they don't have any give, but they don't have enough give. I like a fast that has just enough give to help, you know, land a little more fish. But yeah, don't buy the same rod combos. You know, don't just buy them over and over and over just because they're good and they're a good price, because usually they are. You know, I mean, the Lus are good and the Abu Garcias are good, and you know, if you're trying to save some money, they're not bad options. But they are bad options whenever you're trying to make a whole lineup to put on the deck of your boat out of only those rods and reels. You see no pros doing it. There's a reason for it. And if you want to save money in the long run, you know, start with a 7-foot medium heavy fast. That's what I would do. I would start with a 7-foot medium heavy fast, and I would buy a 6-to-1 gear ratio, and then figure out what you like fishing the most. You know, you'll find out pretty quickly. And once you do, go online, find you a rod, and do some research. Do your own research, watch some videos, figure out what you want in a rod for that technique. You know, first I would buy a flipping rod. You know, I would buy some type of flipping stick. So I would go buy a 7/6 heavy fast, and then I would buy the right reel for it. And then I would buy a square bill rod, because I really liked square bill crankbait. And you know, 6'10", 6'11", medium, moderate fast, medium heavy, moderate fast, whatever you want. You know, do your research, do some looking and finding out. But I'll tell you now, you think you're saving money now, but 2 years or however long it takes you to figure it out, you're gonna regret spending all of that money on all of those combos that are identical, because they're only good for a few things. They're only good for certain things. So, you know, don't limit yourself. Lastly, if you want to get better at a certain technique, only bring that technique the next time you go fishing. For example, if you're a crankbait fisherman and you never flip and pitch, leave your crankbaits at home, leave your crankbait rod at home, leave all that stuff at home, and only bring your flipping stick, or what if you have one, or you probably don't. If you don't flip and pitch, you probably don't. But you know, maybe go pick one up if you're that dedicated, or just grab whatever you got that'll work, and bring your soft plastics and some, you know, maybe like a heavy wire EWG or a straight shank if you've got them, and some jigs, and only flip and pitch a Texas rigged creature bait or a worm or whatever, and a jig, and that's it. That's all you got. And here's the reason, because you may think, well, I'll bring all my other stuff. I'm not going to unload my boat, or I'm not going to, you know, unload my car if you're, you know, a shore angler, because, you know, you may go in with complete, you know, 100%, this is what I'm going to do. I'm only going to do this. Well, here's the thing, you know, if you're fishing this, if you're flipping and pitching for 20-15 minutes and you haven't caught anything, and you're in the back of your mind, you're thinking, all right, I really need to get a crankbait because I could at least catch something. You know, if I had a crankbait, I could catch them, or whatever your confidence bait is. Now, if you were fishing a crankbait on you know, through that brush or whatever, and you go 15-20 minutes without a bite, you're not going to think anything of it because you have confidence in it. It's the lack of confidence that makes you cut the time with it short. So that's why it's best to not bring anything else other than that. Or if you want to, now I've done this before, say you've got multiple things you want to get better at. Say, you know, you want to get better with a shaky head, just that, you want to get better with a shaky head. Say a worm, you want to get better, get some confidence built up in a worm, and a swim jig. Say those 3 lures you have no confidence in whatsoever. Those 3 lures can be used in kind of the same situations. So only bring those 3 things. You know, that way in your mind you can think, okay, well, at least I've got something else to throw. And bring your 3 rods, have those tied on, or if you only have the one, bring your baits and your rod, and only hit the water with those. And that's it. Leave everything else at home. That's the only way you're going to get anything done. If you're wanting to get better and learn how to do something better. So that's it for today's video. This is just a couple things that if I could go back and tell myself when I was first starting, you know, I would probably be quite a bit better than I am now. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, you know, go ahead and leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more content, and I encourage you to check out some of my other videos. So thank you guys. God bless.